every application now is way more dependent on GPS than when I started 10 years ago. So like, you may have had a ground drive planter without section control, or maybe it did have section control back in 2013. And if GPS went out, you could still plant with a ground drive planter, but your section control wouldn't work, but it doesn't matter, you could still plant. Now with electric drives and high-speed tubes and starter fertilizer, everything's controlled off of GPS. And so basically if you don't have GPS, it can shut you down planting. So the other thing is there's a lot of different corrections. So there's broad acreage or kind of WAS-like corrections where you don't have repeatability year after year. So you can't reuse AB lines. We discussed today about PWM control or individual sprayer nozzle control. And with a WAS system, you could essentially miss 3 feet of an area if you're using WAS with one of those PWM systems. So that's where corrections become way more important as far as just utilizing the precision technology that's out there.
But how do we correct? And why do we need to correct it?
Corrections are done through some sort of fixed position or fixed base somewhere. Why do we need to correct is more so due to the fact that if we don't have a correction, it's kind of like your cell phone GPS. If you're standing right here, you can look, and if you have a target right here, it may say you're 30 meters away from it, and then it'll say you're 5 meters away, and it'll just kind of bounce back and forth, if that makes sense.
But do we lose signal from time to time?
Yes. Okay. So possibly solar flares, maybe, is what you're getting at. We're in 2025's in a solar cycle or solar flare cycle, and with some of these corrections that are paid for subscription corrections, like Centerpoint RTX or John Deere SF RTK, those corrections more so, they do provide us with the accuracy we want, but they provide us with multi-constellation in the software, so it can see GPS, which is U.S. satellite system. It'll GLONASS, which is Russia's, and then there's 3 other countries with 3 other constellations that we can see basically their satellites. So it's nothing to see 25, 30, 35 satellites. Those solar flares may only affect 10 out of the 35 satellites, given it's 25 available, so it's not shutting that operation down due to some solar activity.
Okay, so a farmer is going to know that he needs a correction when the machine just doesn't get anything, saying I can't see?
He's going to know when the solar flare is active or what correction he needs.
Well, yeah, what correction?
Honestly, what correction he needs depends on what he's doing and kind of what someone like myself would advise them to do. So, for example, someone doing tillage may just be able to get away with WAS because it doesn't have to be precise, and I could let him know that. There he runs the higher risk of something solar activity related affecting him, where someone that I was just actually talking to right before this got a brand new high-speed planter with liquid system and section control on every row for everything, and he was asking me about corrections. That's someone I'd advise to get something multi-constellation, so solar activity has a less likely chance of shutting them down, as well as something that's sub-inch year to year, so that his section control is basically on the dot every time, and he's fully utilizing the expensive technology he paid for.
There's just no reset button that you can push anywhere.
No reset button you can push anywhere, unfortunately.
You had mentioned state regulations and state information varies from state to state. Mm-hmm. What sort of regulations or information, and how does that impact a farmer?
Well, so I think what you're probably referring to is like a state-run operating system or a state-run correction service. So like all of our neighbors, Indiana, Minnesota, Missouri, they have what's called a Coors network, which is a continuously operating reference station. And so what that does is basically the Department of Transportation for each one of those states sets up different base stations in different areas, and they're using it for like road paving, stuff like that. Illinois, they offer it to their citizens of the state for free, They offer them a username, password, and credentials to be able to use those base stations, and they don't pay a fee for a year. Illinois is now coming out with the Coors network, and they haven't released whether it's going to be a fee, it's going to be free, etc. But my guess is it's probably going to be a free network like the other states, so that's something that I'm kind of looking forward to.
All right. And you mentioned solar flares a while ago were certainly making farmers pull out their hair this last year,
Yep.
and some back in May and in some other time. What about 2025 here? Do we know when those are and what somebody should look for and be prepared to pull out their hair?
So 2025 looks to be very similar to 2024. The fall of 2024. The cycle is basically 1 year before October 15th, 2024 to 1 year after October 15th, 2024. Not to set a hard date on it, but that's kind of what they say, recommendation, like a 2-year cycle. So the things to look for are definitely, one thing, if you see anything that says on the news about aurora lights, every big cycle issue that I had, I heard something about the aurora lights being able to be seen. So that's a big indicator that's all over social media, the news, everything. There's websites that you can check. NOAA has a space prediction website. You can check and see stuff. And then the other thing is, like, I send out mass emails to all of my growers saying, hey, there is some predicted space weather stuff. You may have some outages or downtime.
If someone wanted to get on that email system, how do they get hold of you?
They could call me at 217-670-4435 or email me at andyw@lincoprecision.com.